There, good afternoon. You're watching ABC News. This is ABC Midday here on ABC News Ghana Television. We're streaming live on Facebook at ABC News GH_. Coming up in the next hour. The majority in Parliament says President Mahama's request for the withdrawal of proposed bill to scrap the office of the Special Prosecutor is an internal party communication and not an act of parliamentary interference. Still to come, 31-year-old Ghanaian socialite Frederick Kumi, popularly known as Abu Trika, has been arrested in Ghana for his alleged involvement in an $8 million romance scam targeting elderly victims in the United States. In business, Ghana Revenue Authority has dismissed social media accusations claiming that custom officers at Kotoka International Airport extorted money and treated a traveler unfairly after he was charged 12,690.63 Ghana cedis in import duties. On the international front, the Trump administration has threatened to cut foreign aid to South Sudan after accusing the government of imposing exorbitant fees on humanitarian groups and blocking their operations. The Accra High Court has placed an injunction on the burial of the late High Life legend Daddy Lumba, restraining the first respondent from organizing the funeral and preventing the release of the body from mortuary. Stay with us, we have details of this and more coming up shortly. You're still watching Midday News here on ABC News Ghana Television. We're streaming live on Facebook at ABC News GH_. Now to our stories. President John Dramani Mahama has requested the Majority Leader Mahama Yariga and the Majority Chief Whip Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo to suspend their move to introduce a private members bill seeking to abolish the office of the Special Prosecutor. This was made known in a statement issued on Thursday, December 11, amid growing public debate after the two lawmakers drafted the Office of the Special Prosecutor Repeal Bill 2025 aimed at abolishing the office. Felix Kwachiofosu, spokesperson to the President and Minister for Government Communications, in the statement said, President John Dramani Mahama has requested the Majority Leader and Majority Chief Whip in Parliament to withdraw the private members bill tabled for the repeal of the Act establishing the Office of the Special Prosecutor. The President's request follows his public expression of support for strengthening the Office of the Special Prosecutor as a vital cog in the fight against corruption at a meeting with the Peace Council yesterday. The statement added that the President also reiterates his call on the Office of the Special Prosecutor to do more to boost public confidence in its work and frontally tackle corruption in line with objectives informing the establishment of the office. Now, Member of Parliament for Lambusi, Professor Titus Bayo, says President John Mahama's request for the withdrawal of the proposed bill to scrap the office of the Special Prosecutor is an internal party communication and not an act of parliamentary interference. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Professor Bayo explained that the NDC is led by the president who was elected on the party's ticket, just as the majority leader Mahama Ayariga and the majority chief whip Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo were. He insisted that there is nothing inappropriate about party leader communicating directly with his members in parliament.
Party as of this time is headed by the president, by the constitution of our party. If the party is in power, the president is the head of the party. If we are out of power, the national chairman leads the party. So once we are in power and we have a certain president, the president is the head of the party. The party never wrote to parliament, and the president never wrote to parliament to suspend it, because parliament was not even seized with any bill. That's the first point. Parliament was not seized with any private member's bill. Our leaders were contemplating on filing something. The leader of the party talks to his party faithfuls. This is not a parliamentary interaction. This is an intra-party communication. And we should separate it, because as much as our majority leader and his chief whip are members of the party contemplating an action they want to take in parliament, which they have not yet filed before parliament. It is a private consideration that they have within themselves. And as party people, if a leader of the party communicates to them, I do not see anything wrong. Well, party as of this time is headed by the president, by the constitution of our party. If the party is in power, the president is the head of the party. If we are out of power, the national chairman leads the party. So once we are in power and we have a certain president, the president is the head of the party. The party never wrote to parliament, and the president never wrote to parliament to suspend it, because parliament was not even seized with any bill. That's the first point. Parliament was not seized with any private member's bill. Our leaders were contemplating on filing something.
Still on the senior lecturer and political scientist, Dr. Samuel Ifriye has described President John Mahama's request to Ayariga and Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo to withdraw the proposed bill to scrap the office of the special prosecutor as evidence of lack of cooperation within the government.
This demonstrates a kind of lack of cooperation or kind of government in mind. You know, he is the president. President Mahama is the president of this country, and he has the responsibility to protect everyone and every institution or whatever has been given to him. And the president is being strategic here, meaning that, you know, what brought this issue was due to Martin Pebble issue with OSP confrontation about how things were, how he was arrested and that kind of thing. And you know that Martin Pebble is sympathetic to the NDC. So if this situation will make MPs to initiate a private bill to Parliament for the OSP to be scrapped or to be not to be in existence or whatever, then it's giving a political twist that because they have touched one of your sympathizers, it means that they are not fit for purpose as an institution. So this demonstrates a kind of lack of cooperation or kind of
Now, joining us on the line is Director of Communications for Parliamentary Network Africa, Clement Akolo, to have further conversations on this. Good afternoon, Tenny. Welcome to ABC Midday News.
Yeah, good afternoon.
All right. Now, the majority in Parliament is arguing that the president's statement is an internal communication. How do you distinguish between an internal party communication and a potential interference in parliamentary processes, especially when the directives come from the party's presidential leader?
All right, thank you very much. We all got to know about this communication to these members of parliament who have taken a decision to come out with a private members' motion on a particular issue that they thought they wanted to intervene in. We got to know about the president's intervention publicly, and it was on a letterhead that came from the presidency. And the content of that particular letter was appealing to the members of parliament not to go ahead with their intention. So if someone says it's an internal party communication, we will beg to differ, because we also got the ring of what the members of parliament have decided to do. So if we see a communication that was out there in the public that was calling on these members of parliament to withdraw such a motion or not to even attempt it at all, we think that it is an overreach into the legislative arm of government. Yes, the president is the head of the political party that is in government, but you know, there is a reason why we have separation of powers. So that's why we have the legislative arm and we have the executive arm. So if we see the executive arm or the president trying to control the affairs of what gets into motion and what does not get motion when it comes to parliamentary work, then we will think that the president is overreaching his overreaching.
Right. So now, are you saying that this could set a precedent that affects the perceived independence of the legislature?
Yes, exactly. That's what we are trying to guard against. And the optics are not good. It makes it look like the president or the executive is controlling the executive, which should not be the case. Despite the fact that we have this constitution that makes a blend of both executive and the legislative arm, with the part of the constitution that allows the president to choose about more than 50% of his ministers from parliament. We don't foresee or we don't accept the situation where it will appear that the president is publicly seen as interfering in what goes on in parliament. Otherwise, we'll make no meaning of the separation of powers and the reason why those things were set in place to ensure that we have good governance in our country.
All right. Now, going forward, how can Parliament be a master of its own laws and prevent such occurrences?
So, Parliament continues to be a master of its own laws. Just that sometimes the optics that you are talking about are not very good. This one, for instance, is not a very good situation in the eyes of the public. That's what we're talking about. But Parliament has been a master of its own business, as the standing orders say. But going forward, in the creation or recreation of our constitution, we have advocated from time immemorial that aspect of the constitution that allow the executive to intrude into the legislative arm of government is not a very healthy one. We have romanticized with this particular idea in the constitution for a long time now. After 30 years of parliamentary democracy in the fourth Republican constitution, I think that we are all aware and we are come to the point that this is not a very healthy, do ourselves a lot of good if we can expunge that aspect of the Constitution that allows the executive to pick its ministers from Parliament. We know that on a number of occasions it has not been healthy for us. It has not been healthy because we don't get the right people with the right frame of mind who want to serve the nation in the capacity as members of Parliament only. And because of that, some get into Parliament just to catch the eye of the president to become ministers. We want that to be expanded so that we can get the full strength of Parliament working on our behalf. So, if you ask me, I would say that for us to further strengthen the arms of Parliament, we should do away with that aspect of the Constitution that allows the executive to intrude into the legislative arm of government.
All right. Thank you for your time this afternoon, sir.
Yeah, most welcome.
That was the Director of Communications for Parliamentary Network Africa, Clement Akolo. Now, away from that, Parliament has unanimously passed the landmark Ghana Education Trust Fund Amendment Bill 2025, cementing legal backing for several key educational policies, most notably the provision of free tertiary education for persons with disabilities and free education for persons with special needs. The passage of the bill today, Thursday, December 11, 2025, marks a significant legislative victory for social inclusion and access to education in Ghana, transforming long-standing policy commitments into legally protected entitlements. The bill also backs the free senior high school policy. The primary objective of the Get Fund Amendments Bill 2025 is to adjust the original Get Fund Act 2000 Act 581 to align the fund's legal mandate with current government educational policies. Still on this, the president of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organization, Joseph Achu Homanji, has commended the government for what he describes as a strong demonstration of commitment to supporting persons living with disabilities. Speaking on the recently passed bill that provides free tertiary education for persons with disabilities, he referenced promises made by President John Dramani Mahama in his manifesto, promises that he noted are reflected in the 2026 budget. He added that the lives of persons living with disabilities will significantly improve if the government delivers on commitments captured in the budget.
But now let me take this opportunity again to commend this current administration. You see that they are clearly demonstrating a very high level of commitment to support us. The day if you remember, at the SONA, when the president again delivered the SONA February March this year, he made about 5 promises. One, he made a promise of increasing common funds from 3% to 5%. That thing has been fulfilled in this current budget. And we appreciate that from the president. We are most grateful to the president. The president has also promised that every public institution or private they should be given a quota of 5% employment for persons with disability. He also promised that the women's bank that the NDC has promised women, that women with disability should benefit from that. And when we also had the launch on 24th October this year for the free education for persons with disability, the president made a lot of promises, about 5 or 6 or 7 of them, and I've mentioned some of them already because not of time I can't mention all. And he's saying that his ministers must comply with all this and make sure they fulfill all these promises, and the ministers are working on that. But now let me take this opportunity again to commend this current administration. You see that they are clearly demonstrating a very high level of commitment to support us. The day if you remember, at the SONA, when the president again delivered the SONA February March this year,
Away from that, Frederick Kumi, a 31-year-old Ghanaian from Swedru, has been arrested in Ghana for his alleged involvement in an $8 million romance scam targeting elderly victims in the United States. The indictment, unsealed recently in a U.S. federal court, also names him by his other aliases, Emmanuel Kojoba Obeng and Abu Trika. According to the indictment, Kumi was part of a criminal network that since 2023 used artificial intelligence technology to create fake identities and engage victims in romantic relationships online. The perpetrators reportedly targeted elderly individuals through social media and dating platforms, building trust through frequent phone calls, emails, and messaging before requesting money or valuables under false pretenses such as urgent medical bills, travel expenses, or investment opportunities. Kumi is facing charges including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering conspiracy, and forfeiture specification, with potential prison terms of up to 20 years if convicted. The U.S. authorities emphasize that an indictment is a formal charge, not proof of guilt, and Kumi is entitled to a fair trial in which the government must prove his involvement beyond reasonable doubt. The investigation was conducted by the FBI Cleveland Division and is being prosecuted by Assistant U.S. Attorney Brian McDowell for the Northern District of Ohio. We'll be bringing you conversations on this, so do stay tuned. But in more news, the ECOWAS Council of Ministers meeting in Abuja, Nigeria, has unanimously endorsed Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama as the sole candidate for the West African Bloc for the chairperson of the African Union when the rotating leadership returns to the region in 2027. The endorsement was contained in a recommendation adopted in the 95th Ordinary Session of the Council of Ministers held on December 12, 2025 in Abuja. The communique signed by His Excellency Alhaji Musa Timothy Kaba, Chairman of the Council, emphasized the need for a unified regional position in support of Ghana's ambition. According to the statement, the Council took note of Ghana's request for member state support and highlighted the country's role as an important ECOWAS member state with a strong record in contributing to regional integration and international diplomacy. The Council underscored the need for ECOWAS to adopt a united front as the AU's rotational chairmanship approaches West Africa's turn, noting that consolidated support increases the region's influence within continental governance structures. We're going for a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more news. Stay tuned.
Magic pepper and onion, a delicious tomato mix with tomato, pepper and onion. No grinding, no blending. Ya yenini na da da da. So pa mediane no abin.
Come on, Gino, do your magic.
And papa no kunu abefi.
Jan tasty magic.
Gino Magic Pepper and Onion. The magic that brings them home.
This advert is FDA approved.
Playing for your country, easy. Scoring, easy. Winning, easy. You know what be easy now? Kibo 4-in-1 Gary Mix. I easy. It gets everything inside. Gary, creamer, sugar, roasted groundnuts. Just add water. Sharp my soakings make ready. Taste and energy. Made easy. I'm a match winner, but the real champion is Kibo 4-in-1 Gary mix. Champion taste.
Also available strawberry, coconut, and chocomore. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Midday News here on the ABC News Ghana television. We're streaming live.
I didn't understand the question
right.
properly, but what it means is that he's not the first one. There has been several people, men and women of this country, who some have been extradited to the U.S., if you remember recently. And some other ones, some were involved in a car, and some other people have been jailed and released, and they are all here. So Ghana has become a hotspot for cybercrime, and cyber criminals have taken custody of many of the things we do, and here has become their base. In fraud prevention or in financial crime purposes, we say Ghana has become a host, an origin, and a destination for cybercrime, and is going to definitely increase our risk rating internationally, and that doesn't order well for us, because we are talking about cybercrime, money laundering, and all other things that got to do with criminality.
All right. Now, does this case suggest that cyber criminal networks in Ghana are becoming more sophisticated, especially with the use of AI?
Not sophistication per se, but there are many. They have built capacities, they have built networks, and the volumes are huge. And so they are becoming many, and the volumes involved in the crimes are becoming huge. So that is a source of concern for us as law enforcement officers and as a nation, because our risk ratings across the group will be bad. It will be very high, and people coming to do business here or tourists coming here will have to be put on red alert, because the risk levels are very high in terms of cybercrime. You might be doing genuine business with people, but to the extent that financial crime and cybercrime is high here, they will be considering it as a second choice or as a third choice. The arrest that has been made and the previous ones before this one, however, will help in the ratings as well, so that over time the ratings will be realigned and readjusted, and we might be moving from very high or to medium or to low. So we will need to do more investigation, we will need to do more arrests, we will need to do more prosecutions, and we will need to do more confiscation. One of the things we don't do properly in this country is to confiscate the ill words and the ill-gotten properties they have. And until that is done, it's definitely going to affect our ratings across the group.
All right. Now, what should Ghana's government and cybersecurity institutions learn from this incident in terms of policy regulation and technological readiness?
No, it was the same people who went and arrested them, so they are not learning anything. I'm saying that we need to do more investigations, we need to do more confiscations, and we need to do more prosecutions and confiscate the ill-gotten wealth they had as a result of this crime. It is the same Cyber Security Authority, it is the same CID block, it is the same BNI who worked together for arresting this particular guy. But the previous one was also a combination of effects from the same organizations that went after them. It means that in terms of a nation and the capacity for investigate and prosecute, we are doing well. We need to do more.
All right. Now, how do we make cyber crimes, scams, romance scams, and other related offenses not look like a norm among the youth, because we know that it has become kind of like a norm among the youth.
Prosecute them and confiscate their assets.
All right. Thank you for your time this afternoon, sir. That was security expert Richard Kumado. Now, all right. The Ghana National Council of Private Schools has directed all private pre-tertiary schools across the country to immediately suspend every inactivity related to the West African Examination Council's 2025 Basic Education Certificate Examination registration. The directive, issued in an official communique signed by the GNA Corps National Executive Officer, Obenfo Nanakwesi Jetwa, follows what the council describes as years of unilateral, unjustified and harmful fee increases imposed by WAEC without consultation or transparency. According to the GNA Corps, BECE registration fees have seen steep and unexplained increments over the last 5 years, rising from 85 Ghana cedis in 2021 to 350.82 Ghana cedis in 2025, a cumulative increase of more than 312%. Breakdown of the increases follows. Now we have 85 Ghana cedis for 2021, 104.80 Ghana cedis for 2022, making a 23.29% increase, followed by 170.01 Ghana cedis in 2023, making a 62.55% increase, and then 282.35 Ghana cedis in 2024, making a 66.08% increase, followed by 350.82 Ghana cedis in 2025, making a 24.24% increase. Now, the GNA Corps says the trend is alarming, especially given the country's economic conditions and the financial strain on parent and private schools. The council also expressed growing concern that private school candidates who pay full registration fees may be indirectly subsidizing the cost of examinations for public school candidates who do not pay fees. WAEC's alleged refusal to engage stakeholders says has deepened mistrust and created a perception of systemic inequity, effective immediately. Now, submissions of candidate registration data, payment of BEC registration fee, participation in WAEC meetings or briefings, and any operational or administrative engagement related to the 2025 BECE have all been suspended. Joining us on the line is Samuel Nana Osei, the Director of Finance for the Ghana National Council of Private Schools, to have further conversations on this. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to ABC Midday News.
Good afternoon, madam.
Right. Now, why are you ordering your school to suspend all activities related to the WASI and BECE?
Okay. Good afternoon once again, and let me use the opportunity to extend a warm greetings to your cherished listeners and viewers. Our case is very simple. We have worked with WAEC over the years, and over the years we've monitored the activities, and we've realized that there have been some unclear or irrational increments of their fees since 2021. And so what we are seeking from WAEC is very simple. What we are saying that we seek clarity and some justification for the 2025 BEC registration that has been given out for our people to pay. And then we feel that there's no established transparency considering the stakeholders that take place in this kind of engagement of WAEC. And so we've stated about 5 reasons or more why we want our people to put every engagement on hold in respect to WAEC registration.
All right. So when are you going to ask your people to suspend all activities? We know next year the academic year begins or continues, and very soon candidates would be taking examinations. So what would be your resolution?
Yeah, so WAEC has to come out. He has to do some stakeholder engagement, simply because we felt that there are no administrative justice to some of these things, and there's no procedural fairness to the parties that they are in business with. And it's a clear abuse of power of what WAEC is doing. Look at the communique that we have put out. Since 2021, WAEC was charging 85 Ghana cedis per registration. And mind you, this registration is not just left to just this fee. They pay for sanitary support, they pay for cleaning, they pay for all sorts of things at the district base. 2022, this fee was increased to 104 to the 80 pesos. That is about 23.29% increment. 2023, 62.5% increment of WAEC charges. 2024, 66%. And 2025, where everybody now thinks that there have been some price reduction in all sphere of our economy. Why this increment? There's no basis. WAEC prints its papers in the country. We don't import the questions. We print them here in Ghana. What accounts for this increment? 24 cedis. Now, for the past 4 years, if you take an average of WAEC increment, that is about 44%. We are in a country where parents are crying. Look, my dear, go to some places. We talk about private schools and we think that we are limited to just Accra. We have low-cost private schools where some don't even pay school fees. They only pay for canteen. And then the schools find a way of managing them. And because of these prices, their parents who are not able to pay for their WAEC registration, and for that matter, they forfeit sitting for BECE. Why would WAEC do such a thing? And we feel that it's a clear abuse of their powers, and we feel that there were no administrative justice to the bodies that they are in business with, which is the private associations. And for that matter, we stand on our position that our people should put every registration on hold until WAEC comes out to clarify things for us, and then we will come to a common ground of continuing our services with them.
All right, Mr. Osei, so what happens to your candidates if WAEC does not pay heed to your plea?
My dear, WAEC will not have candidates. They can go ahead and deal with the public. In simple put, the public students are not paying. They have put that categorization to Ghanaian students. And we feel that some of these payments is a cover payment for both the public students and the private students. And we feel that it's a gross hit to the private students. And for that matter, we are not going to condone such activity from WAEC.
Finally, your counterparts in the government schools, have not complained about this issue. So why
would they complain? Because they don't pay.
Okay.
Why would they complain? And we feel that by now, BEC registration is supposed to be free. Now that governments have seen the need of including private senior high schools, why is the criteria test, why is the examination fee continuously increased? If the people don't sit for BEC and pass, how would they have access to SSS? Where from this? Look, we are looking at a service rendering. Over the years, have you seen WAEC increasing and improving in their delivery of service? No. What are the logistics that we are talking about here? The invigilators, we haven't seen any much improvement over the years. Is it the centers? No. We are still using the same public senior high schools. These kids have to still contribute, clean up, and do all sorts of things. They haven't improved it in any way. So what accounts for this constant remote increment of WAEC charges?
All right.
Tell me, over the years, what government agency that have increased their prices with an average of 40%, not even to talk about 20%, not when the civil servant pay rise was just about 9%. We have civil servants whose kids are in the private schools. And so we cannot sit down and watch WAEC to continuously do some of these things to more or less bring unfair judgment to the private candidates. We will not condone that.
All right. Thank you for your time this afternoon, sir.
Thank you, my dear, for reaching out to us.
You're welcome. That was Samuel Nana Osai, Director of Finance for the Ghana National Council of Private Schools. Now, moving on, residents of Okushibi and Afienya in the Pong Katamantu constituency are raising fresh concerns tonight as a major access road left abandoned for nearly 4 years continues to deteriorate crippling livelihoods, blocking access to essential services and leaving communities desperate for government action. There is more in this report.
The Okushibi-Afienya Road in the Pon Katamansu constituency has remained abandoned for nearly 4 years. Construction began under the previous New Patriotic Party administration with IB Megida as the contractor. But the company reportedly left the site, leaving behind equipment and an uncompleted road that residents describe as a death trap. Residents say the stretch has become almost impossible to use, especially during the rains.
It's the Afienya Road up to Jerusalem to Apollonia. The road no good. The road no good at all. It no good. If it rain like this, car no go fit pass. So me, I'm crossing going like this, but the gutter is full of. So I can go Apollonia.
For riders and traders who depend on the road daily, the situation is even worse. They say the poor state of the road is crippling livelihoods. The condition of the road is also affecting workers and families in nearby communities. Some say it has even disrupted basic access to healthcare and halted local development.
City Apollonia Junction, the poor Ashaba. The calling your cry. Now, to ask for Kakra Busurum Bugis to say Mobile, my but up to now, she'll bridge away and she'll bridge away here. Nina, you fight bridge in Chenchen. Got to be any so to side and side, you know. It's when you you're not so because you are laying as a nigga. The Capri should be good. Yes, Rabbi, and say, why a nigga? I'm finding number 2 points in our ocean on your mind.
Attempts by the ABC News team to reach the offices of the District Chief Executive and the Member of Parliament for clarification were unsuccessful. Until authorities respond, residents say the Okushibi-Afienya Road will remain a daily hazard and a symbol of neglect in the Kpone Katamanso constituency. The Okushibi.
You're still watching Midday News here on ABC News Ghana Television. Up next is Business News. In the world of business, the Ghana Revenue Authority has dismissed social media accusations claiming that custom officers at Kotoka International Airport extorted money and treated a traveler unfairly after he was charged 12,690.63 Ghana cedis in import duties. In a statement released on Thursday, December 11, 2025, the Ghana Revenue Authority admitted that the traveler may have been dissatisfied but said the viral narrative distorted the actual events. The authority explained that the traveler arrived in Ghana on December 5, 2025, carrying 18 mobile phones and various electronic accessories items for far above the personal allowance permitted under the Exemptions Act 2022, Act 1083. Since the goods were not declared upon arrival, customs officials issued a bill of entry BOE number 412258032295 in accordance with standard procedures. The duty was then calculated and processed through the Integrated Customs Management System, and an official receipt was provided. The Ghana Revenue Authority stressed that there was no extortion, contradicting the travelers' online claims, and noted that customs personnel behaved appropriately and within the law throughout the encounter. The authority added that the traveler was neither detained nor had his items seized, and that the procedures followed a routine for travelers arriving with goods in commercial quantities. All steps taken adhered to customs rules and import regulations, the statement noted. That's all for business news. Up next is sports with Eugene Ofori-Soti.
Introducing Betway's Bet Influencer, a groundbreaking feature where you can make money by just sharing codes. He just needs to share his codes and make money. The more his codes are used, the more money he makes. Oh yes, so what are you waiting for? Anyone can be a bet influencer. Share your codes and make money. Bet Influencer, another world first from Betway.
This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Betway, get way more.
Gino Magic Pepper and Onion, a delicious tomato mix with tomato, pepper and onion. No grinding, no blending. Ya yenyi na da da da. So pa mediane no abe.
Come on, Gino, do your magic.
And papa no kunu abefi.
Jan tasty magic.
And your daddy
Kino Magic Pepper and Onion. The magic that brings them home.
This advert is FDA approved.
Hello there and good afternoon. Welcome to the sports segment on the Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to the sports segment. I'm Eugene Oforiso to apologize for the earlier breaking transmission. Let's head to Parliament, where Sports and Recreation Minister Kofi Idi Adams has formally presented the long-awaited Sports Fund Bill to Parliament, marking a major step toward reshaping the financial support system for sporting disciplines across Ghana. Addressing lawmakers, the minister underscored the persistent funding challenges that have hindered the growth of many sports, especially those outside football. He emphasized that inadequate financial investment has long been one of the obstacles to the development, athlete preparation, and international competitiveness. Let's hear from Kofi Idi Adams.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Speaker, it's quite clear that over the years, this House have had challenges to deal with many issues that affects funding in our sports generally. We have had instances where the ministry I superintend over has been described as a football ministry because funding is mostly secured to support just football. When indeed, when we talk about sports, it goes beyond football. There have been many attempts to put together a funding system that will enable the ministry execute its program by bringing on board many more sporting disciplines and supporting them. Cabinet, in its wisdom, gave approval for this bill to be submitted to Parliament for Parliament to consider it, so that for the first time, the country will have a sports development fund, a fund that will draw from many sources as indicated in the bill that has been laid before this House, that when approved, we will not have the challenges of funding our sports, and sports will grow to bring about development and support.
Let's head to the Ghana Premier League, where Accra Suffolk welcome Nations FC on match day 15 amid a difficult run of form. Since listening to Kotoko in early November, the Phobians have managed just one Ghana Premier League win and suffered a shock MTN FA Cup exit to a Division 2 side. Their long victory came against Vision FC. Head coach Didi Dramani says he is now focused on resetting the team's mentality to improve results.
I think first of all is to see the cycling of the team, to see to it that we are refocusing and then we are resetting our mentality in terms of what is ahead of us. We are in a marathon competition, which means that every week is a new event, and so it is just to reset our mentality in terms of what is just in front of us. I think that areas where we faltered is very decisive moments where we need to make the right decisions in terms of a quality move, a quality pass, and then a better execution. And so these areas are areas that we keep emphasizing on, that we need to be very, very consistent in terms of how we need to do things and be more sustainable. And I believe that once we are able to keep those areas to grow into our game, I'm very positive that we should be able to turn our
That was Hearts of Oak's head coach, Mas Udiri Dramani, speaking there. Let's have a look at the fixtures that will be played this weekend in the Ghana Premier League. Well, so for today, Hearts of Lions will be taking on Diana Stars Football Club for today's game at the Kwando Stadium there. And then subsequently for match week 40, also Hearts of Oak will be taking on Nations FC on Saturday. And then Asante Kotoko also be taking on Dreams FC on Sunday. Beijing United host 11 Wonders. Sweden Blacks take on Vision FC. Basaka Holy Stars take on FC Samatex. Bekum Chelsea host Hoko United. Mediama travel to face off against Gold Stars United. Karela travel to face off against Young Apostles. Well, that's all the sports for now. I am Eugene Oforisoti. For more sports news, head to our website, abcnewsg.com/sports. International news is up next.
You're still watching ABC Midday News here on ABC News Ghana television. On the international front, the United States has issued a sharp warning to South Sudan, saying it may cut foreign aid after accusing the government of imposing exorbitant fees on humanitarian groups and blocking their operations. In a statement from the State Department's Bureau of African Affairs, Washington said these actions violate South Sudan's international obligations and could lead to a review and potentially significant reductions in U.S. assistance. The U.S. is one of South Sudan's largest donors. Decades of conflict and weak governance have left more than 70% of the country's 11 million people dependent on humanitarian support for food, healthcare, and other basic needs. Washington said the crisis is being worsened by poor governance, mismanagement of public funds, and what it called predatory practices targeting aid organizations. In more news, the United States government has announced that it will deport 15 Kenyan nationals who were convicted of various offenses as part of the Trump administration's intensified crackdown on immigrants it considers dangerous. The individuals appear in a newly launched public database created by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to track undocumented immigrants who have been arrested and convicted. The platform, called Worst of the Worst, is intended to make immigration enforcement more transparent while signaling the administration's tough stance on deportations. The development has raised concerns among Kenyan diaspora and families in Nairobi who rely on financial support from relatives living in the U.S. Advocacy groups caution that the heightened enforcement measures and the public listing of offenders could increase fear and pressure within immigrant communities across the country. That is all for international news. Up next is entertainment news. In entertainment, the Accra High Court has placed an injunction on the burial of the late High Life legend Daddy Lumba, restraining the first respondent from organizing the funeral and preventing the release of the body from the mortuary until the substantive case is resolved. The ruling followed an application by the musician's maternal family, who argued they were excluded from burial arrangements. The court agreed that the affidavits revealed a sidelining of the immediate family, stressing that although the family head has authority over funeral rites, such powers must be exercised in consultation with close relatives. The court acknowledged the financial burden of delaying the funeral, but maintained that proper procedure and family involvement must be respected. It ordered the first respondent to convene a stakeholder meeting within 3 weeks to decide on a new burial date. Additionally, all funds raised for the funeral must be separated from Daddy Lumbe's Memorial Foundation account, and the applicant must file an affidavit with the court registrar. That's all for entertainment news, and that's how we wrap up here on ABC Midday News, live on ABC News Ghana Television. We stream live on Facebook at ABC News GH, _ for more news. Log on to our website at www.abcnewsgh.com. I am Peggy Nyakwambano. Have a good weekend.